Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode of the Omnus Chronicles. I really remember. But yes, welcome. It's good to see you all again. So we have been absent for a bit due to illnesses and stuff, but we are getting back on track. Tonight's podcast is about starships and the design and stuff like that around them, and a bit about their what they can do, what they achieve, what they're made for, and stuff like that. Because I think Star Trek's one of the platforms, the shows out there that if you see one of a Starfleet starship, everybody knows it's Star Trek. I think from some other shows you can see ships from other shows and stuff like that, and you're like, not too sure where that's from. If it's not a hero ship or something like that, you could take any sort of Star Trek ship that's not a hero ship, that's just a regular cargo transporter or something like that, and everybody will go two nacelles, engineering hull, and a neck with a saucer on it. Right, that's definitely Star Trek. It's very unique and very cool, and it works absolutely amazingly along with the science behind how a starship works. Whereas there are matter and antimatter, deuterium and I think is it anti-deuterium they use? I can't remember. And which are collided together, and the reaction is put through dilithium crystals. And the subsequent energy is put through the warp coils and then the cells, which is long bits that stick out usually the side at the back of a starship, and that creates a warp bubble, so it doesn't have to follow Einstein's theory of relativity, because it creates a sort of bubble of anti-space where it compresses space in front of the ship and expands space behind the ship, so it can travel at vast speeds. And the speeds don't quite correlate to what you think they would, whereas warp 1 is the speed of light, warp 9 is 1,560 something, I think, times the speed of light, so it's way faster. And the scales have kind of changed between the original series and every other iteration of Star Trek that we know. But yes, so we'll start getting into it. For those of you who are listening, I and everyone else will do our best to describe what we're seeing, as I do have a wee, I do have a screen to share for everybody watching on YouTube. Earth ships named Enterprise, so that's what we're going to start talking about, and then we'll go into some other starships. Enterprise has been a name that's been used for naval vessels throughout human history. The first sort of space vessel to be called Enterprise was the American Space Shuttle. I'm not including that here because I actually found out that was the test base model, and the Enterprise shuttle never actually made it into space. So it was tested out on the back of like a bone and stuff like that, and it was used for landing and stuff like that, practice, but it never actually made it into space. Could be wrong, but that's the information I read.
Yes.
But yeah, is that right?
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I remember it.
Yeah, cool. So I'll start off with the XCV-330, which is the very first Enterprise. Now, from Earth, this one wasn't known until Star Trek: The Motion Picture, and it is very not Star Trek in terms of a starship. In fact, it looks more Vulcan than anything else. You have a sort of long, thin tube with a sort of thicker tube at the end, and at the back of it, surrounded by two massive rings, which were there to propel it to warp speeds. Not much is known about this. I think it was only warp 2 it could reach. But yeah, I thought I'd put this in here because that's that's the second sort of spacefaring vessel named Enterprise that we know of. So if
I'm gonna ask questions,
Sure.
and it might seem like silly questions, but is that where Gene Roddenberry got his idea to call it the Enterprise from.
No, well, the Enterprise was originally going to be called the USS Yorktown. And funnily enough, the Enterprise A, when it came on screen, was on Star Trek The Voyage Home, Star Trek 4. It was actually the USS Yorktown who was rechristened the Enterprise A. So that's sort of, the two things tie into each other. It's quite nice. But yes, it was originally meant to be the USS Yorktown. Enterprise, I'm not too sure. I think from what I can sort of recall at the back of my brain, there's it is just a name that sort of resonated more with a sort of positive outlook of humanity. The name Enterprise sort of like sort of gives the impression that the humans are doing good and doing well, and they are moving forward. And I think that's where more likely where they got the name from than just randomly picking one. But unless anybody knows any different. Nope.
No.
But yeah, I think that's what it is, because the original, as I say, the original Enterprise was meant to be the Yorktown, but that changed to Enterprise during the pre-production phases of the original pilot episode. As I say, this one looks more like what we see as Vulcan ships of the era, and going forward for the next couple of hundred years at least, anyway. Vulcan ships having they have a more sort of rounded sort of delta shape, with the big circular big circles in the middle of the ship that surround it, and that's what that used to create. That's where the warp nacelles love to be able to create a warp field to propel the ship faster. So we'll go on to the next one, named Enterprise, and funnily enough, it is the NX class of Enterprise. So this was again a prequel to the Enterprise from the original series. This was created later in the late 90s, early 2000s, I think. And the NX class was an explorer vessel. The first vessel to be able to reach warp 5, of which it was actually managed to reach warp 5.2 is its maximum, before it started to shake itself apart. It didn't have shields as we know it. It had polarized hull plating, which was meant to sort of deflect energy-based weapons. It was 7 decks, crew of 83. Not a large ship in terms of Star Trek, but yes, it came up that it sort of bore the original design. It never started, but it bore the original design of what was to become a classic Starfleet vessel, which was 2 nacelles coming out to the rear at either side, and with this one coming into the back of a saucer section, connected. Later on, the Enterprise, as we have now seen the refit of the NX class, it did have a secondary hull, like we know from the original Enterprise. So the pylons, the sort of warp nacelles connected through pylons to a secondary hull, which is an engineering hull, and then connected by a neck sort of to the main saucer section. This misses out the secondary hull altogether, and it focuses more on a bare bones basic version of what a starship was to be, but was still making it look sort of its time, really out there, and sort of the pinnacle of what humans could achieve at the minute. And the 2 ships I've just mentioned are the only ships in this that are solely Earth-based, because from when we go on now from Enterprise starships, we will go through the everything else is from the United Federation of Planets. So it is a combination of technologies and designs from every single member of the Federation going forward. Going forward in time, the more members of the Federation are, the more people have influence and stuff like that. Although Earth, Vulcan, and Andoria were sort of the three main sort of influences in terms of technology for most of these ships, and that going forward, especially the Andorians in terms of weaponry and stuff like that. So we will move on.
I think it's kind of silly, but it also shows that my brain is still not 100% well. The bottom of the ship kind of looks like, and it's really random, but it looks like the gate from Stargate.
It does, yeah.
I've been sitting staring at it going, I think I know that from somewhere, and it finally dawned on me that it kind of looks like the outline and the layout of the gate that they use in Stargate.
It does indeed, yeah.
But why was these the only two that were Earth
ships? Well, just not long after, we would have seen it if Enterprise would have gone on to a 5th season. We would have seen the Enterprise NX class refit, which would have had the secondary hull, engineering hull, and we would have seen the formation of the Federation, which was basically why every single ship afterwards was not solely Earth-based, whereas everything up until now was not completely Earth-based technology, but mostly Earth-based technology. I mean, the Vulcans did help out in terms of navigation and stuff like that, but they didn't want to help out in terms of, at that time, bringing humanity too far forward in terms of engine and weapons-based technologies and stuff like that. But navigation, the Vulcans had a big part in as well.
Amazing how he knows this much about ships and engineering on ships and shit like this. But tell you what, give him a second on engineering, on the engineering pod in Star Trek: The Bridge Crew, and you'll watch him wail like a child because he won't know what to do.
Yeah, that's making me think on my feet. This is stuff I've known for ages, and I've actually prepared a wee thing for this, and I've got a wee spreadsheet in front of me with vital information.
Why don't you just do that?
Makes me look
Bridge
smarter
Crew?
than I actually am.
You're always forcing me into that position. I'm always the engineer.
But yeah, that's quite funny. Yeah, as much as I know about this sort of stuff, when it comes to actually operating it, yeah, it's a bit like I knew someone who shall remain unnamed, an elder member of my family, who in his job was charged with selling people on the aspects of closed circuit television, CCTV, and advantages of different systems and stuff like that, and what they did, and the specs, costs, what ones would work best in different situations. And this is also a person who tried to turn on his TV with a remote control, didn't know why it wasn't working, asked me for my help, and he had the remote the wrong way round. So, yeah, just because you know a lot of stuff doesn't mean that you can actually operate it at all. Right then, on to the original Enterprise. Now, this is one that absolutely everybody knows. This is the classic Starship Trek ship.
Oh no, what you have been doing, I'm sorry, I lied. You have been describing it for our audio listeners.
No problem. Yes, it's something that I'm trying to keep in mind. So if I forget, please do remind me. But yeah, this is the classic Star Trek ship, as we know from Enterprise. I think if you showed this ship to most people in the world, from any country, they'd be able to turn around and go, "Oh yeah, that's Star Trek."
Even if they haven't seen Star Trek, like watched a lot of it, they'll go, "Oh, I know that from that show."
Yeah.
Might not know exactly where it is, but they've seen it somewhere at some point.
Yeah.
Somewhere in their life.
And this sort of takes the design to a sort of a completed level. I mean, starships are always in a state of evolution in terms of the designs and technologies and stuff like that. But this is sort of like a lot of people feel that this is the pinnacle of starship design. The original Enterprise, Constitution class, with the sort of cigar-shaped engineering hull with the deflector dish in the front. 2 pylons coming out with the again the sort of see me go
Looks
for
like a
smoking
laser
references here,
pointer.
but the cigarette shaped warp nacelles, and then a sort of tapered neck coming up in to meet in the saucer section at the top. Yeah, that's with the bridge module at the top. Now, I only found out recently actually that all those bridge modules were actually interchangeable. So the reason why you see maybe the Enterprise D in the movies, the bridge is slightly different than the Enterprise D from the TV shows, and how the original Enterprise went through different bridge designs depending on the movies without necessarily changing the ship. It's because the bridge modules are actually interchangeable for a lot of these ships, and they can be disconnected, pulled out, and a new one put in with up-to-date, not necessarily technologies, but up-to-date interfaces, and how we can help to operate the ship.
Is this the one where there was something that one of our crew posted? I don't know if it's this ship or if it's the later version, where you can have the bridge at different places as well in case of fights and stuff, or was that a different?
Yeah, the
That
first
was the
one.
Enterprise D.
Yeah, the first one actually shows it on screen as Enterprise D with the battle bridge.
Yeah, and that's
and
only
that
if the
being,
saucer section is removed.
yeah, that being part of the engineering section. If the ship were to, if the saucer section were to separate, I've subsequently heard whether this again. I listen to so much stuff. I don't know which is beta canon, which is ALF, which is actual full canon.
You can just call it canon or fake.
Yeah,
canon
canon or not.
Call it canon or discovery. How's that?
Yeah, it's canon of some sort. There might be original canon. It might have a letter behind it.
No. It's either canon or it's discovery.
Yeah. But I have heard of other ships being having battle bridges and secondary bridges in case of, and that does fit in with the Federation's way of doing things, especially when you see Miles O'Brien, Chief O'Brien, trying to upgrade Terrak Nor DS9 to DS9. To a proper Federation station, and having to have all the different backups. That fits in that the starships would have multiple backups for multiple situations, including seeing as how that the bridge is such a vulnerable place at the top of the saucer section, which a lot of people say is a bad design and a design flaw in them. But yeah, they would have a battle bridge, a secondary one, to be able to take over, even if that were just a section of engineering where all the controls could be properly accessed. As I say, the original Enterprise 1701 was a heavy cruiser, 22 decks, crew of 430 as standard. The first one to in the line of Enterprises to have phaser banks instead of phaser cannons. And the first one to carry the newer versions of photon torpedoes, having 3 forward and 1 aft photon torpedo launcher. These were top of the range at the time, and it being a heavy cruiser was Starfleet's way of saying this is a ship you don't want to mess with, but in reality.
Bloody weakling.
So, well, not in reality, and sort of as a side part, it was very heavily armed and it could fight its way. It could go up against the best of them of the day. It could go up against the D7 from the Klingons, and hold its own, more than capable of holding its own against a couple of D7s.
Yeah, it just can't hold its own against the D. Because the Enterprise D would just like one photon torpedo and a phaser, and it's dead.
So what was that?
I think John wanted to say something.
Oh yeah, go for
it. Two things. It can separate.
It can, yes.
The bridge can separate, because it does say in the apple. Kirk says, remember, if anything happens, separate the dish and limp out of space.
Oh, cool.
No, I didn't even know that. I actually always thought it was the Enterprise D.
It's also in the Franz Joseph Technical Manual. It says there as well, and I think one of the blueprints. I think I had the bridge somewhere on the 8th deck, I think, if I'm rightly.
So they actually do have a battle bridge then on the Enterprise, the original Enterprise as well.
Take me on the way about the blueprint. It's easy to about the blueprints, so.
Well, yeah.
And John, feel free to interrupt me, by the way, because once I get on a roll, it's like, you need someone to go, hold your horses.
Nay!
But yeah, so the Constitution class starship. The 1701 refit, which was the original Constitution class Enterprise, which was refitted and reworked for the Star Trek motion picture, the first movie, was and the 1701A were both the same kind of ship. I have tried to find out, because some references refer to it as the Constitution, some references refer to it as the Constitution 2. I don't know if starships that were and maybe some of our viewers may be able to, our listeners be able to tell us in comments whether the Constitution refit was one of the original Constitutions that were refit, and the Constitution 2 was any starships that were built originally to that spec. I don't know if there were originally built to that spec. Again, the USS Yorktown from the voyage home seems like it was a new ship that was rechristened to the Enterprise A. Whether it was a new ship or not, it was just sort of heavily implied in the movie. That's what I got from it anyway. But yeah, so there is some differences there. The refit added another deck. Managed to get another deck out of somewhere. So out of the 22 decks from the original one, each one was just a wee bit shorter than it was before, and they managed to squeeze an extra deck in to get 23 decks. But for pardon me, for talking sake, it was pretty much the same ship. It was armed the same, although they were it had more phaser banks and it was slightly more powerful. The warp drive was slightly more powerful, which meant they could go slightly faster. I think it was a warp 8 for the original was the top speed it could manage, which was a cruising speed of warp 6, but the refit could go up to warp 9.
So a little bit of interesting information here that you might not know.
Mm-hmm.
The Enterprise wasn't the first Constitution class.
I was going to say, the Pike's Enterprise, from the cage, you've got two little pylons sticking out the collectors.
Yeah. Even then.
Yeah, if you look at the Enterprise from there, it's got two little points sticking out.
Yep.
Yeah. So generally, how it works is the make of the ship.
Yeah.
So whatever its name is, there's usually an NX that is the original ship, that is the first design of that particular ship. So the Constitution class would be the NX Constitution, like the NX Sovereign would be the first of like the Enterprise E wasn't the first Sovereign class ship. It was actually the NX Sovereign, as far as I remember. That's how they run their ships. So they've got to go through a whole. They've got to go through the what is it called? Damn it, man. Hey. Shakedown, yes. So the ship goes to the shakedown, and then it turns from NX whatever it is to the I.S.S. And then, but the first ship is not normally the Enterprise is not normally the first ship of its of that particular class's name. They normally have a few classes before that, because problems and issues, and you want to work those all out before you make the flagship that particular ship. You don't want the flagship just like pegging halfway through space.
The Omnus was an NX, and then once we passed our shakedown, we became an
Yeah, that's normally how it works. But the Omnus is also its own specific ship. Well, it's being refit to its own specific ship now, at least. So for those of you who don't know or haven't found out, the Omnus is being refitted.
We're not gonna go into that.
But we'll go into that on a different episode of the podcast. I think we'll talk about how many ships are going through refits at the moment and things like that. But anyway, so what my thought was that the first Constitution class wasn't actually the Enterprise. The first Constitution class, as far as I remember, was the USS Constitution, and then like the Galaxy was the USS Galaxy. That was the very first Galaxy class ship, was actually the USS Galaxy, which sadly was destroyed. According to some of the logs that Picard was talking about, other than their sister ship, that the USS, what was the sister ship of the Enterprise D? Yamamoto, that's it.
Yamamoto. Yeah.
Yeah, that ship sadly also got destroyed. But the first Galaxy class was actually, or the first Galaxy, the USS Galaxy, was actually also destroyed. Because it was briefly mentioned in one of the TNG episodes. I just don't remember when.
Yeah, the Galaxy class was quite a labor and material intensive ship to build.
Yeah, that's why they didn't make very many of them.
I think there was only 6 or 8 ships in total.
Yeah, it's sort of like building a battleship like they did in World War II. There weren't very many battleships, but because they were so labor intensive, there weren't very many of them. But they were formidable when it came to battle.
Yes, as long as they weren't rammed by a Jem'Hadar fighter.
Yeah, unless that happens.
yeah.
Does
But
John have anything to say before we move on to the next one?
What I'm saying about the Galaxy, then you had the Intrepid, which was Voyager. Okay, DS9 was Defiant, so that was Defiant.
Yeah. Funny enough, the Defiant class was actually just became the Defiant, and that's what that actually was its shakedown name, as well as the name. Well, I mean, obviously because it was the first of its kind, and I think the only of its kind for a long time before they actually started creating more of them. But the Defiant class ships are actually very good in battle as well. Again, a couple of hits and it's destroyed, but that thing it's like a bee, or not like a bee, it's like a wasp. It'll fly around you and sting you a shit ton of times before you can get it.
Most definitely. Moving on to the Enterprise B, which first appeared in I can't remember the subject film.
Generations,
that was it. Generations. This is an Excelsior class ship, but it's an Excelsior refit.
Yeah.
It's a later version of the Excelsior. You can tell by for those who are looking, for those who are not, I'll describe it down at the bottom of the saucer, the engineering hull. It's sort of more flared out than just sort of bulbous as the original one was. A couple other details. yeah, basically, putting a wide body kit on it. Try and soup it up a bit. But yeah, this was an Excelsior class ship. A crew of 700. One of the getting larger and larger as we going along. Again, this was warp 9.5. Was its high speed. with 28 decks on board. This class of ship was very long living for a starship, because it was started in Star Trek 3, The Search for Spock, and then a couple of hundred years later, we still see them attacking the Jem'Hadar and in defense of, and trying to get back to DS9.
Is that the one where they take like forever to show you the ship, and the scene of showing you the ship
No.
could be a movie of its own
No,
because it takes
That
so
was the
long.
Enterprise A, Angel.
Okay.
Yeah, that was that could have been a
That
movie.
was Revenge of the Wrath of Khan. Because we recently watched the Wrath of Khan, and Kez got rather annoyed when they were doing the flyby of the Enterprise, because they kept flying past the Enterprise, and she's like, "When are they going to get inside?" She got very annoyed.
Yeah, I think they spent so much time and money on the models. They were like, "Yeah, we're going to milk it. Really
We're
going to
gonna
milk
show
it.
them
We're
off.
going to get every single angle and shot possible, to
This
show
one-
you
this
how
one is-
good that we how much work we put into this."
Yeah, this particular class of starship was in, or this particular ship, the Enterprise B, was in the First Contact.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah, First Contact. Yeah.
That's where you'd find it most, Angel, is in First Contact.
Okay.
And it didn't last very long, sadly.
It does have a connection to the Constitution class 1701, in that Captain Sulu's daughter was aboard as a pilot.
Helm.
Sorry, what was that?
She was in Helm.
She's Helm.
There's a helm. Yeah,
Helm.
yeah. The
It's
helm.
a Zulu.
Yeah, so that was quite cool to see. That was good.
It wouldn't. It's because it would be Zulu back the Zulu at the helm.
Yeah. But
I
again,
wouldn't
we
go back.
didn't see too much of it in any of the movies or anything like that. It was, but it did play a pivotal part afterwards in the history of the Federation, as did every ship with the name carried the name Enterprise.
Yeah, exactly.
Yep. Move on to the Enterprise C, which is Ambassador class. And
Not the
now,
prettiest looking ship, I'm not gonna lie.
yeah, it's sort of like the Constitution class on
It looks like a rubber
steroids.
ducky.
Yeah, it's like somebody's got the Constitution class and like put in a big like tube in it and went
Yeah,
and blew into it, and it just went.
Basically, or it's just a starship that's eaten too much.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, that should be my starship then. But
Mine too.
but again, this was only in one episode, yesterday's Enterprise, in Star Trek Next Generation. And can anybody name the captain?
Rachel Garrett.
Rachel Garrett. It was indeed, yes.
Played by Trisha O'Neill.
Yep. Awesome. That sounds more than I knew. I didn't know her actual real name, so that's cool.
And also, she was in the Piranha. On Piranha.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, I'm a Trekkie, but I don't know that much about Star Trek. I mean, I'm really not that deep into it.
Yeah, so this continues the sort of Star Trek, the design of the engineering hull, the workman cells coming out the back, the neck, albeit a lot shorter, and then the saucer section again. This Enterprise in particular was destroyed at the Battle of Narendra 3, protecting the Klingons, which basically led to the peace, the full-blown peace agreement between the Federation and the Klingons. Because the Klingons were so impressed that the humans gave their life for the Klingons against the Romulans, that they thought this was very honourable, and peace was born out of it. And as we see from yesterday's Enterprise, if that hadn't happened, the Klingons would probably have taken over, and Star Trek would be a whole different show.
Yeah.
And then some.
Yeah, most definitely. But yeah, it was good. I like that one. Short-lived on screen. Again, it is in terms of specs, it is the Ambassador class is 33 decks. It's again 700 crew. Slightly slower at warp 9.4 as its top speed. 11 phaser arrays with 2 photon torpedo launchers, 1 forward and 1 aft again. So still very heavily armed for a emissary / explorer ship. But explorer ships like the original Enterprise were meant to go out and explore space and go where no man has gone before in the original up to this point. But no one has gone before. So this is it should be pretty heavily armed.
It kind of grows on you the longer you stare at it.
It does. It's a nice design. It's a good it's a very good segue between this Enterprise and Enterprise D and Enterprise A. So the Enterprise, the original Constitution, the Ambassador, and then the D. You can see the lineage going forward from them, and always thought it was really good. And move on. The Enterprise D. Now, Galaxy class ship. This was the hero ship for the entirety of the Next Generation TV episode and for the first movie before they blew it up. But Galaxy class, one of the biggest ships Starfleet had ever built, and some say Starfleet was sort of in a day of sort of hubris. It was taking its own might and size too lightly, and thinking that it could do whatever it wanted. But in terms of like having families on board, I mean, putting families on board a starship that's going to be out there and seeing all sorts of action and unexplored things and danger. It is an exploratory vessel. It is it's quite weird to put families on board. But again, as a ship that was designed to originally be out there for years at a time, it would it'd make sense to have your family on board. I guess it would. But the Enterprise was originally, the Galaxy classes were originally designed as long-range explorers, but that all changed with the Romulans coming back onto the scene. But a really, really powerful ship, not in terms of top speed, which was still 9.4, same as the Ambassador class, but had 14 phaser arrays.
It could take a couple of hits as well.
Yep, it could take a fair few hits with the shield, not only photon torpedoes but antimatter mines it carried as well. And again, this carries on the evolution of the sort of starship design. This one. It looks really sleek. It looks really. It's sort of like what people in the 1950s thought cars would be like in the 2000s, where they were drawing them really sleek and angular and very sort of aerodynamic, even though it doesn't need to be aerodynamic because it's in space. But the whole aesthetic of it, as far as humans go, that's the sort of stuff we like, and it's absolutely brilliant. Anybody get any comments on this? Because this is just the classic sort of ship for me. This is my hero ship, no matter what.
It's kind of weird because it looks like, I know it's facing that way, but it also looks like it's facing that way.
Angela, it's not facing the way you think it was facing.
It's confusing. I'm still trying to figure out which way it's facing.
Hang on, I'll show you.
It's weird. No, but the angle, I mean, the front is facing that way and the back is facing that way, but it also could look like the front is facing that way.
Yeah, see, you're saying it's going that way on my screen.
Optical illusion.
To me, it looks like it's going that way.
Essentially, it looks like it's facing to the front, but also sideways at the same time.
Yeah, it's just an optical
Yeah.
illusion.
Yeah, but I mean, this was one of the most powerful and largest. It was the largest starship at the time, and one of the most powerful that Starfleet had ever designed. And
Yeah.
You never answered my why about the Romulans or the thing on why it was so important.
What was that?
Something.
Oh, about the Romulans, yeah. Originally, it was a long-term exploratory vessel. It was meant to go into deep space, deep space, and explore for extended periods of time. Hence, having the families on board and stuff like that. But then it was, I can't remember the name of the episode. The episode where they found the people from the 20th century and the cryogenic pods. What was that?
Neutral zone. The neutral zone.
Yeah, neutral zone. That's it. That's the episode. Yep, the neutral zone. Yeah, where the Romulans came back into play because they had disappeared for 100 years or something like that. They'd been nobody'd seen them for. They were consolidating themselves, and as they put it, matters at home kept them from that area of space, but now they're back. So yes, a bit more threatening. Hence why the ships like Enterprise were kept closer to home than they should have normally been doing. But yeah, the first.
No one could have predicted the Borg.
No one could have predicted the Borg either. Yeah, no. Well, at the time, you think no one could have predicted the Borg, but then as it went through, Borg were in Enterprise, which is way back in the beginning, before even the original series, and timeline wise. So yes, somebody should have known. That's Section 31 getting a kick up the arse for that one.
Well, that's exactly why I have a problem with Section 31 in the first place, and why I don't believe in Section 31, because, come on, seriously?
Exactly. Now this is weirdly, this ship is the first one that I know of to have a cetacean section for navigation. So they actually use dolphins to help navigate. Not quite sure how that worked, but there is a big section in the if you look at through the blueprints that is for holding dolphins. Does any of you guys know any more about that? Then?
Huh?
Are you pulling the Mickey?
No.
No. If you look at the technical manual, PNG technical manual is in there.
Yep. It's not widely known, but yeah, something that was on it. Something that they hooked the. I'm just guessing at my arse here, but they like somehow used the brainwaves of the dolphins in combination with the navigational computer to be able to better navigate through space in certain ways and stuff like that. I don't know. Maybe they just gave the dolphins the map of space and goes, so where do you think we should go? And the dolphins are like, ooh, that one looks nice.
Yeah.
So I'm not actually too
looking
sure
it
how it
up,
all
yes.
works.
So it says here, Starfleet employs dolphins in their starship navigation systems, which sounds very much like property.
Yeah.
This seems contradictory if they are considered sentient. But that's just a lot of bullshit that they're trying to talk there. I'm just trying to see here. The way Geordie talks about them doesn't seem respectful. Oh god, never mind. I must be on Reddit. Must be on Reddit. That's the only place you'd see stupid bullshit like that. It's fictional, people. It's fictional. It's not real.
Yeah.
That's interesting. I never knew that though.
Yeah. I think the Enterprise E did as well. I'm not too sure whether any other enterprises did.
No.
But yeah, it's just a sort of maybe a bit of a strange fact that people might not know.
Yeah, I'll try to find the book. If you find me a book, I'll get a photograph and show you
Yeah, cool.
the photograph.
So yeah, I thought that was quite cool. And we'll go to next iteration of Enterprise. Enterprise E, Sovereign class. Now, this Enterprise just standing still, looks fast,
So
and
gorgeous.
looks like it's going to kick everybody's ass.
Yeah.
And basically, it can.
It's armed to the teeth. You see those teeth on the front there? There's even teeth on the front. It's armed
Yeah,
to the
exactly.
teeth. Get it?
Yeah. I mean, this the Sovereign class was actually a heavy assault cruiser. It was classed as 29 decks, so a lot smaller than the Enterprise D, with only 855 on board. But top speed of warp 9.9. 12 different phaser arrays. I think there were Type 12 phasers as well, if I remember correctly, and 10 photon launchers, which could also, 2 of them could launch quantum torpedoes. But along with that, following on designs from the Defiant and other such ships, the Enterprise E actually had ablative armor as well.
Wasn't it tungsten armor?
Sorry?
Wasn't it tungsten armor?
No, ablative armor. So it was...
No, man. A plate of tungsten.
Oh, right. I don't know what it was made of, yeah.
Yes, see.
But basically made, so it basically coated the outer shell of the Enterprise, and it was designed to burn away should energy weapons actually get through the shields, to give it a more staying power in a firefight, basically.
Yeah.
The same as the Defiant did. In fact, I've seen a lot of people question one of the things I'd like somebody to answer. So if somebody knows why and wants to comment on this, you have and the original NX Enterprise has hull plating, energized hull plating. Then you move up to shields. Then you move up to ablative armor plus shields. Why didn't you add hull plating into that as well? I'm pretty sure you could energize the hull plating as well as having the ablative armor, the shields, and make it stay in a firefight even longer.
Wouldn't it screw around with the electronics though?
Yeah, I mean, maybe it was the case that again, hull plating, energized hull plating at that point was just not up to the standard of being able to deflect any sort of weaponries because of the power of them at that time. I don't know. So if anybody does know, yeah, please let us know. That'd be great to find out why. Because you think they'd want to combine as much of the technologies that they've had in the past that actually worked, and upgrade them and put them all into the one ship, especially something like, as I say, the Enterprise E being a heavy assault cruiser, and basically one of the ships does it along with the Defiant and the Akira and the Steam Runner and all that were designed to fight the Borg, basically.
Yeah, because they had modulating weapons, so the Borg couldn't adapt to them.
Yeah. I should have got more pictures because this ship is beautiful. I wish I had the ability to make a 3D model so you could spin around it. But this ship is the first one that really seemed to try and fix some of the flaws of other ships. Because if you look at other ships, you can say, okay, then the bridge is quite open, and this is a lot more sunken than some of the other ones. The neck between the saucer section and the secondary hull is really thin and quite squat in this. And part of reasons behind the design of ships coming on for this and coming more sleek and squat, and is because of the episode in Next Generation, and maybe Commodore, you may be able to help me with what episode it is, where they they realised that warp drive is actually destroying subspace.
Yes, that was seventh season.
Yeah, that was it was a really good episode, that, and basically it affected starship designs from there, because they had to be more, although it doesn't it just looks like a starship is just flying through emptiness and nothingness. It's not. And starships had to change the way their warp bubbles were to be able to cut through subspace cleanly. A bit like how aerodynamic EVs need to be able to work more efficiently. For us in this day and age, they were designed the same way with the Intrepid class. If you notice, the warp nacelles are quite flat, and then they move up an angle for warp flight, and that's to make sure that we get the best possible warp bubble to be able to minimise any damage to subspace. And Starfleet then, that was its sort of first attempt at making ships that were able to do that. And then from then on, it was incorporated into the whole design of the ship, rather than just the change in the attack of the warp nacelles to change the shape of the warp bubble to be able to get through subspace easier.
The episode was Force of Nature.
Force of Nature, yeah, it was a really good episode.
Yeah,
I like that, because it was the first time the Federation were sort of forced to admit that, yeah, their technology and all their exploration is actually damaging space. I guess mirroring humanity today, where we are forced to all our technology and exploration of our own planet and stuff like that, and movements about of our own planet are destroying our atmosphere. So I mirrored that quite a lot, and I really like that episode. It was really good, and no one believed them to start with. Same way, there's a massive divide in the population of where not global warming. Now, what you can't say global warming, because it's it doesn't, that suggests that the Earth is heating up, and in some places it is, but in some places it's getting colder. So it's whatever the words I'm looking for. Climate change. That's it. Climate change.
Yeah, climate change, or the greenhouse effect.
Yeah. Basically. So I go next to the Enterprise F. Now this was only shown in Picard. Again, this is very sleek in its design.
I like this one.
Yeah, it's got quite an oval saucer section, with the sort of neck coming down from the saucer section and sort of encapsulating the secondary hull, but leaving gaps either side, so you can see that there actually is a secondary hull that flows through the middle. And then the pylons for the warp nacelles being more out of an angle, more of a flat, more along the lines with the ship, rather than sticking up like they did with like the original Constitution and ships like that.
It's a vape now, not a cigarette.
Sorry?
It's a vape now, not a cigarette.
Yes, it is. And it's amazing in the design of some of these starships. They call it kit bashing, where they take bits from certain ships and put them together to make a new class of ship. But also with ships, how they I can't remember the name of the ship now. It is where they actually got, it's a 4 nacelle design ship, where they got highlighter pens and basically spray painted them grey and then coloured in the right bits to make them look like warp nacelles. I was like, that's just awesome, because it looks really good.
The Stargazer, wasn't it? Stargazer series.
Yeah,
TNG.
something like that. Yeah, it was a 4-cell design, I remember.
Picard's first ship.
Yeah, it's really good the way they do that sort of stuff. But yeah, the Enterprise F was only appeared in Picard and only for a very short time. It's an Odyssey class ship, and it's menacingly dreadnought type. It again smaller than the Galaxy class at 32 decks, but larger in sort of length and width, with a crew of 1,600 people. This is the first Enterprise to have more than just warp drive. From here on in, we see in the timeline we see a lot of ships being able to do warp 9.9, and yeah, you pretty much can't get faster than that unless you want to turn into some wee four-legged creature and have kids with your captain. Yeah, I don't think anybody wants to de-evolve into that. So yeah, but to supplement that, technology is brought back by Voyager. The Enterprise F had quantum slipstream and transwarp drives. It had again 18 phaser arrays, 4 proton torpedo launchers, heavily armed ship, but it wasn't a very long-lasting ship. This ship was only in service for about 8 years or something like that before it was decommissioned due to issues found on a certain mission. The good thing that I felt that connected the Enterprise F again, because it was so far ahead in the future in Star Trek Picard from many of the other Enterprises we'd seen, and there was a massive gap, was that when we did see it when it was getting decommissioned, Admiral Shelby, who was Commander Shelby from Best of Both Worlds, was at the helm. So yeah, I enjoyed that. That was quite good to see. I must admit. But again, we've not seen it in action, not seen much of happening. There's lots in beta canon, but again, a very sleek design, a very cool design. A very sort of, they're starting to. The ships are elongating slightly, as if they're almost look standing still, as if they're entering warp drive. You know, that way when the ship sort of, when you see the graphics of a ship going to warp and it sort of stretches itself onto the screen, the ships are almost look like that, standing still. And these ones, yeah, pretty much. And it's it's very, very cool. But again, another flagship of the Federation.
There is a flagship.
Sorry?
So a flagship means you've got an admiral on board. I mean, flagship means you've got an admiral on board.
Oh, cool.
Original term for flagship is a flagship is a flag admiral. If you've got a flag officer
awesome.
on board.
Cool.
Going back to Napoleon times.
Awesome. The next ship Enterprise we're going to see is the Enterprise G. Now this was
one is the one that Ross liked.
Yeah, this is the USS Titan, Titan A actually. So it was originally, because it still has some of the original Titan in it. It's actually, some of its underpinnings are actually of Lunar class, although it being a Constitution 3 class. And again, this harks back to what I said at the beginning about the Constitution 2 being the refitted version, and this being the Constitution 3. So this is the sort of namesake successor to the original Enterprise. And this, although it is modern, although it has got all the latest technologies on it, it has it goes up to warp 9.99. It has like phaser turrets as well as arrays, photon and quantum torpedoes. It's a fast, sturdy, powerful little ship. The design of it harks back to days gone by, I think. I don't know what you think, but it looks less sleek,
Yeah.
more angular. Sorry?
Looks upside down to me.
It does a bit, yeah. That's very true, yeah. That top section on it could be a secondary hull.
Yeah.
And
It's
for
the
those of
thing-
you... Sorry?
She said secondary hull doesn't look right. It looks like it's on top.
Yeah. For those of you listening, if you've not seen Enterprise G from Star Trek Picard at season 3, again, it's got warp nacelles reminiscent of the Enterprise A Constitution class, with a slight variation on it because halfway through it sort of bumps up. We have the same sort of angular pylons that are taking it down to the secondary hull, but the secondary hull, the neck as it comes up to meet the saucer section actually comes up and over the saucer section, and makes it look like something from another something like from Aliens or something like that. I think the designs of it looks like a military vessel from the Aliens franchise and such. But with the saucer section not being a full saucer, the sort of inner part of the saucer section is a full circle, but the outer part's missing. I'd say a good third of it in the back, and that's with the thingies set, I think, impulse engines. But yeah, again, a strong, sturdy little ship, but it seems like the design has sort of went backwards when you look at this ship in comparison to like the Odyssey class Enterprise F.
Well,
But
that would make
I like that.
Because I take it back, it's not his favorite ship. So if it looks backwards and it's from Picard, that I'm assuming makes him happy. Because he doesn't like it. So.
Yeah, it's got a lot more of a retro design. Well, retro as far as futuristic can be, but it's got a lot more of a retro design to it, which is awesome. The last Enterprise that we have is the Enterprise J.
What the hell is that?
And this is Universe
It's
class.
horrible.
Yeah, it's pretty. I mean, it's like
That
something
looks like a slug.
I know, it looks like it's something like 2 kilometers long or wide or something like that. It's ridiculous. This was actually only in a couple of episodes, or one episode in particular, sorry, of Enterprise, where Jonathan Archer was shown a fight between the Federation and the Sphere Builders, where this Cindy were on the Federation side, and this was the Enterprise that was that he was on board while he was fighting, and the schematic was in the background.
No, you know what it looks like? It looks like those hover scooter kind of thing.
Yeah.
You could stand and hold onto the sides. That would be your handlebars, and then that would be your platform. And run around.
Yeah, it's like it sort of looks like to me. If anybody's ever seen Big Hero 6, those spinning discs that young lassie has on her feet to make herself go really fast. That's sort of what it looks like to me. It's like the nacelles look as if they come so far up as if they can wrap around your leg and strap to your ankles, so you can use it to go around like a roller skate or rollerblade. But yeah, so it's very flat, very round in the saucer section. The secondary hull sort of comes up and over, again a bit like the Constitution 3 class, but in a lot more sleek way. And the pylons that hold the nacelles sort of come out as an extension of the secondary hull, and look a bit. I mean, it must have some really super duper new materials that are really seriously strong, because they look like matchsticks and look really thin and could be blown apart like really easily.
That's about right. I mean, honestly, that ship doesn't look like it could survive 5 minutes in a battle.
Yeah, I think it's size more than anything else.
Yeah.
Would give it any sort of thing. I mean, it is classed as a dreadnought with quantum slipstream and transwarp. I couldn't find any information on sort of armaments or anything like that. I'm sure they're out there. I just couldn't find them when I was doing a bit of research on it. But yes, not loved by many fans, this one, and I can see why. And for
Yeah.
everybody who is listening on Spotify or any other platform like that, everybody is nodding their heads and going, no.
Yeah,
No.
no. It's a very ugly ship.
It's really
It seems
it's
kind
the
of useless.
worst.
Yeah, it does. It's. I don't know why anybody would need a ship that big, unless you're transporting. I mean, it's meant to be like 2 kilometers in size. Unless you're like transporting an entire freaking planet from one place to another, why would you need a ship that big?
Because they squish the planet. That's why it's so big and round. They squish the planet to make it fit inside.
It sort of looks like that, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does.
Exactly.
The way the lights look as well, it looks as if it's sort of
Looks like it
spinning.
squashed a galaxy, not just a freaking planet.
Yeah, it looks like a bit like the Discovery's Crossfield class with a spinning disc on it. It looks like it's constantly moving. The way the lights go and stuff. Yeah.
I don't know what the hell it was trying to camouflage itself from.
Yeah, I have no idea. It's just
Look, I'm a big galaxy. You can't see me. Ha 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 ha.
Yeah, I mean, it's like the amount of power it would take to actually power something that size and propel it and everything. Yeah, I mean, I know it's meant to be in the future, but even stuff from the 32nd century Discovery episodes don't show you ships like this. They've all got completely different. There's some really unique designs, which we can maybe touch on in another episode. Because next, I would like to go on to 2 ships that were in the Star Trek universe that were hero ships, and then I've got another couple that were asked by crew members aboard the Omnus for me to have a look at. The first one being the Defiant, obviously from Deep Space Nine.
Yeah, the Defiant class as well.
Yep. Was technically classed as an escort ship, but who's kidding? It's a warship.
Yeah,
I mean,
that's a warship. That's not.
Yeah. And it's the first warship that the Federation have actually put out and sort of not tried to, like, although they called it an escort ship, they didn't really try to disguise the fact that this is a warship. This is built to kick ass. This is built to, like, take out other people and other ships and stuff and defend the Federation menacingly as possible.
Exactly.
Yeah. Small ship, very small ship, with only 5 decks and 50 crew members. Still capable of warp 9.5. I had 3 phaser arrays, but 4 phaser pulse cannons, which was the first time we've seen something like that on a Federation starship, and they really pack a punch. The pulse cannons do, and it has 4 forward and 2 aft photon torpedo launchers, which can also launch quantum torpedoes. And as a last resort, I'll explain the ship again. Sorry for our Spotify listeners, audio listeners. It's the front of it is.
What to explain?
I know it's weird. It's sort of like a sort
It
of
looks
a
like
round
a duck.
a round ship with an elongated back instead of completely round. It's got 2 sort of wings on the side. It's sort of
a
like.
duck.
And then like a really, really big nose, like beak. Yeah, it's like a duck, pretty much, like a squat-wee duck. But that beak at the front can actually be used as a warhead for as a last resort, should it be fighting something. And there's, I don't know what it is that's stored in there, but it's deuterium or whatever, or it's just weapons are stored in there. But yeah, it makes a hell of an explosion once that's detached. And yeah, what's everyone's thoughts on
Quack quack.
a Federation warship?
Quack quack. Pew.
Yeah, this is one duck that if you tried to feed it bread, it'd take your hand off.
I don't have any.
Yeah,
I don't know
it's
if I have that.
very small,
No.
squat, overpowered ship, but also very good to see in battle and was brilliant in Deep Space Nine. They really
Was a
used it
battleship.
well.
It's classed as a battleship, isn't it? It's more than
Yeah, yes, it's
actual
a proper warship. Yeah, designed for
So
war.
it goes in the tank back. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it just looks mean, even though it does look like a duck. It looks like a mean duck.
Yeah,
Not a duck you would mess with.
exactly, an angry duck.
Next class, pardon me, is
Intrepid.
Intrepid class. Now, along
Definitely
with,
one of my favorites, I must admit.
yeah, I mean, when I first seen Voyager, and I seen the ship, I was like, oh, that's kind of cool. But where's the neck to the saucer section? And even though it's not saucer sectioned, it's sort of, I don't know, it's sort of oval with a big hump in the top.
The science vessel, it doesn't need a saucer section.
Yeah. But the secondary hull and then the squat pylons that actually came up, so the warp nacelles were angled.
Yeah, angled correctly to be able to go into warp. It was quite awesome.
Yeah. So yeah, just another classic ship. They totally changed about the design again when going for the Intrepid class, but it works well within the Star Trek universe. You can still tell it's a Star Trek ship, and yeah, Voyager being my most rewatched series behind TNG. Yeah, I have a great fondness for this ship, I must admit. Intrepid. It's absolutely brilliant.
Me three.
It is, yeah.
Yeah,
I love the
yeah,
Intrepid. I think it's definitely one of the more advanced kinds of ships. It's definitely something that they should have implemented into more of the ships, like your not your galaxies, your sovereign class ships and all of that. The way the warp nacelles bend, it made them more, well, from what the technical specs said, it made them more maneuverable. When the nacelles were bent down like that, it was more maneuverable by impulse. And when the nacelles lifted up, then you can go into warp. But in battle, imagine how easy it would be to fight if you could actually maneuver with your warp nacelles down rather than up. It would have been awesome.
Yeah, it sort of lowers the profile of the shields, so it's smaller and therefore more powerful and lasts longer.
Yeah.
Plus, as far as I'm aware, the pylons were actually able to move while in warp to make minor adjustments to
Nice.
give it the best geometric shape for the warp bubble to be able to pass through space as cleanly as possible, which is
cool.
Yes, it's very, very cool design. And I must admit that it's always cool to see when you're watching a Star Trek Voyager episode, just at the end of the title sequence, where the ship sort of turns, the sails come up and it goes to warp. It's always cool to watch, man. It's absolutely brilliant. It's very, very cool. Next on, we'll have 3 more to go. So quickly run through the Akira class, which is my favourite ship. Again, to fight, made to fight the Borg, and again, everything's kept in quite a squat shape. It is more reminiscent of the NX Enterprise than anything else we've seen so far in terms of its shape and design, but it really keeps it squat. So it is a strong, powerful wee ship. We have
Looks pretty.
it is, yeah, it's very good. There we have and oh no, my pictures have run done. No, what's wrong? I've run out of pictures. Sorry.
Oh no. Oh no, and everyone is so excited for the next ship.
Yeah, the next ship is in the Nova class, which is what the Omnus is. And everyone's heard us talk about that. And then there's obviously the Steam Runner class, which is a favourite of Kieran on board the Omnus steam runners is his. But yes, what are your thoughts on ships, everybody? Your favourites? Any designs that you think are just a bit shit? Whether you think the designs are going too far, whether they should be more like the Enterprise G, where it's going back a bit retro. Yeah, what do you all think?
The slug.
What the hell is the point in going back? I'm not gonna lie. Going back in time, because then you're just gonna weaken the ship as well, make it easier to actually get destroyed. And look, we're not living in the times where kids are now all wearing freaking that the stupid clothes that they wore, where you wear your trousers under your boobs. You know, that kind of stuff doesn't work. So why go back in time on ships?
Yeah, exactly.
It's the same thing. You're basically replicating bad design. Why do that? You know, so I don't think the G's a good idea. But Kez is right. The slug
ship that swallows planets is a horrible design and needs to just be written off. Like, it doesn't.
It really does. Yeah, it's that is. I've never liked the Universe class ever since they showed it. It just looked like they were trying to be too futuristic, and it just doesn't come across well at all whatsoever. Yeah, and the size of it is just, who the hell needs a ship that big? 2 kilometers in size? I mean, what the hell? Yeah, I mean, what you meant to have in there? It's like, is it just like 2,500 holodecks? And it's just a bit of a party ship? I don't know. Either that, or they have an absolute crap load of dolphins on that one.
Yeah. Just potting it up in their little ocean-sized pool.
Yeah, I mean, the whole first half of the saucer section could just be full of water for the dolphins. You never know.
Yeah, you'd empty an entire planet of water, though.
Awesome. Denny is no, excluding the obviously the ones from the future. Do you know the fastest Enterprise?
Sorry?
The fastest Enterprise.
The E, as far as I remember.
With conventional, the E was 9.9. The Odyssey class was 9.99, so slightly faster.
Okay, well, you know, if you're gonna talk about like the TV series, the Enterprise E. If you're gonna talk about the game, it was definitely the F.
Yeah, and again, the warp scales change between the original series and Next Generation, so that it isn't always accurate if you see the warp.
If you want to get really technical, the Omnus it gets to warp 10.5 or 11.5 or something like that. So the Omnus is a hell of a lot faster.
Yeah. I'm not having babies with you, man, no matter what you say. But excellent. Well, that's yes. That's all I have for this podcast.
After what John says, then Ross can sign us off today because David's not here.
Okay.
Yeah, I was any ship I don't like is, if you look at the Essex from the Horizon, like the Horizon, it's like a small ball on the end of a golf tee.
Yeah.
If you look at I.S.S. Horizon, it reminds me
Okay, we lost John on that last bit there. What did you say, John?
the Horizon class, or the I.S.S. Horizon from the original series. If you look at it, when the Essex, the crew of the Essex take over the crew, the Enterprise E, the Enterprise, what episode it was. If you look at the class of the ship, it looks like a golf ball on the end of it.
That science vessel.
Yeah. I'm trying. Yeah, that you. Yeah,
It's a weird looking
Tell you
vessel,
what,
I agree.
You like the old Pasteur from the last episode of Next Gen.
Mm.
The great big ball on the end.
Yeah.
Knows what-
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah, definitely the weirdest looking ship, I must admit. That science vessel that's just a great big ball on the front of the ship.
You expect a big alien to come along and just like kick it.
He's showing.
You see it, I don't know if you can see it. You see it, nice too.
It's so small though. But I can see it, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Exactly, I was trying to get it. It's too far to reach. Yeah, it looks like the old golf ball there. They put the look at the partners.
I feel
There's two.
like that was one of the Scottish members of the writing crew who decided he wanted to design a ship, and he was like, "Oh, it's got to be a Scottish ball." Come on, say it's got to be a golf ball. Or be in the PGA.
Mhm.
Anyway, anyone else got anything?
Nope.
How the hell do I sign off?
I think I've said more than enough.
Well, yes, because it seems like the old Scotsman there didn't like this golf ball. Is golf the one thing we can't talk about? I think he's insulted about the fact that his countrymen created golf. I think it's an awesome sport.
I just don't get golf. I really don't. Don't get it at all.
You know what? To be honest, I don't either, but I can learn because honestly, I miss playing hockey, and the closest thing to that would be golf.
Yeah. Well, see, I don't know if I'm allowed to play golf. I'm not a bank manager, so.
Well, neither am I.
No, I used to play golf.
Yeah. You know, honestly, I'm not gonna lie. Since I've been here, I've actually like sort of started picking up an interest in golf, and I've never played the sport in my life. Weird. Really? Maybe it's because we got a golf course just down the road from us. But anyway, yeah, I don't know how to close off. So yeah, thanks to everyone for listening and watching on the podcast on wherever you're listening from. Thanks for watching. I know you can't see my face, and that's just too bad because my camera is being difficult. Thank you, Hugh, for actually creating the story and everything that is behind this podcast today. Thank you for joining us, John, and giving your input into what you think is a good and bad ship, because I agree with you and many of them.
Yeah.
And Kez, thanks for hosting as you always do and recording everything. And yeah, that's it from us here on the USS Omnus. Thank you so much for joining us. And this is the crew of the USS Omnus and Essex signing off.